Welcome to our live event. This is more than just a stream. It's a movement. Introducing Soul to Do Mischief, Forsaking the Holy Covenant, now available on Amazon, Kindle, and shopwowgoods.com. We're replacing 50 years of black music with truth music. Our exclusive soundtrack is here to uplift, inspire, and tell our story. Raw and unfiltered. Don't miss our 7-day flash sale at shopwowgoods.com. Get up to 50% off select items and enjoy free shipping on all orders over $50. Most products ship in as little as 3 days. Want to go deeper? Join our Patreon, Nazareth is the Hood podcast, for rated T, too hot for social media content, unfiltered truth, real stories, and a community that supports you. Shop now at shopwowgoods.com. Grab your copy of Soul to Do Mischief and join our movement for truth, music, and real change. Thanks for tuning in. Let's make history together.
Seen the vision, something holy, something higher. Heat rising, smoke in the air. Saw a figure standing there. Feet like they burn in a fire. Glowing gold, walking higher. Head in hands like a lamp. White as snow, purely I am. Eyes like flame, truth in the gaze. Every word cuts through the haze. I feel the power, I feel the light. Presence of heaven is changing my life. A mystery and wonder, I'm caught in the fire. Heaven on earth, yeah, I'm sanctified. Like they burn in a fire. Walking through the storm, never tired. Head in hairs like the lamb. Wisdom in the crown, pure as I am. Seen the vision, felt the flame. Now I'll never be the same. Feet like they burn in a fire. Head in hairs like a lamb. Yeah, try to run, but I can't escape. Truth in the mirror, can't look away. Glory in the scars, beauty in pain. Every trial, every flame made me who I am today. Walking through the fire, but I'm shining in the night. Lessons in the struggle, now I see the light. Touch the sky, I'm elevated. No disguise, I'm celebrated. Every step I'm consecrated. But I'm never faded. Feet in the fire. But I'm never faded. Feet in the fire. But I'm never faded. Feet like they burn in the fire. Walking through the storm, never tired. Head in hairs like a lamb. Wisdom in the ground, pure as I am. Seen a vision, felt the flame. Now I'll never be the same. Like they burned in the fire. Head in hairs like a lamb.
Going in too.
Well, I guess it wasn't meant for us to hear it at the time.
Absolutely. Well, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Do it again.
Well, I want to go into First Maccabees, man, because this heavy spirit doctrine, this joining and uniting all nations into one nation and one kingdom. And I find that to be completely contrary to the Bible. And the reason I say that is because, as I often say, when we talk about the book of Genesis, when we look in Genesis 1, and we see that for the first 7 days of creation, the Most High separated. As a matter of fact, one of the greatest powers of the living God is to separate and to place in order. So there would be no need if you don't understand the basic foundational premise of the scriptures, then of course you would say that the God of the Bible loves everybody, and his ultimate goal is to bring all nations together in this conceptual gathering of everybody just together. Everybody is equal. Everybody is one nation under God. And actually, when you look at the framework of the deception of America itself, America is in battle with its own words. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just that statement alone is a very Christian concept. Okay? And so what I want to do is I'll go to First Maccabees 1 first to just get the understanding of where this concept comes from and how it's been used so successfully to destroy us as a nation and as a people. This is First Maccabees chapter 1, and to give you the context, this is the Edomite convert Greek captivity. And the reason I say that is because when you see terms in the New Testament like Jew and Greek and Roman, these type of terms, you immediately think that means Europeans. And what I need you to understand, or that means Caucasians, okay? And what I need you to understand is that you have to go to the root of an issue. You have to go to the foundation in order to get the understanding, okay? So these Greeks that our people so easily form organizations. They call them the Divine Nine organization, divine as in some sort of godly organizations, okay? The Divine Nine were created to mimic the Greek letter organizations of the Caucasian universities, okay? What I need you to understand is that the Caucasians are not the ancient Greeks. I'll say that again. The Caucasians, those that descend from European nationality, okay, are not the original ancient Greeks of the Bible, of the planet Earth. They are Edomite converts. Their progenitor is Edom. Okay, this is Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1, and it reads, "And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. Then he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece." What you have to understand is that Alexander is of his father, Philip. Philip was a Macedonian. The Macedonians descend from Esau's son, Duke Amalek. You have to understand these things to understand the times that you are in right now. Okay? This first verse completely encompasses the war that is going on around the world right now. Darius was king of the Persians and the Medes. He had control of the landmass at this time known as Greece. The Persians are your modern day Iranians, okay? They are an ancient Persian empire, the Iranians, okay? Who America and Israel is at war with. They are not the original ancient Greeks. I need you to understand what's going on, okay? So that you can follow things as they happen and as they occur. It says that Alexander reigned in his stead first over Greece. First Edomite convert over Greece. Now you'll notice that Alexander did not spread Macedonian culture all over the East. Alexander spread Greek culture all throughout the East. Okay? What you have to understand is that Maccabees 1 is explaining to you the beginning of the reign of the last ruling empire of the earth. The fourth and final beast of Daniel 7, one like unto a leopard. Alexander was known for wearing leopard regalia, okay? Or known for going into battle with leopard skins on, okay? That is the face of the beast. Now, this beast is a scarlet colored beast, a mega hat colored beast with 7 heads and 10 crowns. All of this is significant. Every word has meaning. Now, First Maccabees is going to go on to explain to you in great detail what the face of this beast looked like, or the initial years or the beginning of the reign of the fourth and final beast. Okay, so let's read on. Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he caused his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Now, you have to understand that he died in 323 BC. Okay? Now, pay attention to this keep this in context. He reigned 12 years over the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay? Edomite convert starting his reign, and understand that before his death in 323 BC, understand that it declines until it gets to 0 or 1 AD, and then it excels again. Okay. He ruled 12 years, then he died. A verse. And his servants bear rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. Please understand. They put crowns on themselves. Duke is the highest ranking royal position in the British. They call them peerage. It's like the British families, okay? Duke is the highest position of rulership, okay? Duke is also the descendants of Esau, okay? As I said earlier, the Macedonians descend from Esau's son, Duke Amalek. Okay, so let's see what happened once he placed men who he had come up with. Honorable men is what he called them. In other words, the men that were phallic worshipers just like him. You can look at there's a docu-series on Netflix about many of Alexander's lovers and many of his accounts and how he was a demon. Okay. All right. And 9th verse. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. See, this is the blueprint. This is the foundation of America, fam. You understand that? 10th verse. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. Now you see the connection with Rome. Please understand that it was first the Greek Empire, then the Greco-Roman Empire, then just the Holy Roman Empire after the Renaissance period. Okay? After the kingdom was renewed. Now, I need you to understand these things so that you can connect the dots and you can see exactly where America is today. It is in the same position as ancient Rome. Okay? And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. And in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. I want you to understand that it's nothing new for the Israelites to greatly defend, support, and persuade other Israelites to make a covenant with the heathen. I need you to understand the spirit of this. This is the spirit of the house slave. Do you understand that? Malcolm X explained it as the house slave would say, Master, we sick, Master. And I want to bring your attention to a very significant verse. It's in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 24. And it reads, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Okay, this is pivotal. Okay. So when you understand the allegiance that a house slave has to his slave master, and you understand that being a house slave was a prerequisite to becoming a reverend or a Christian pastor back in that time, then you can understand what the Father means when he says that no man can serve two masters. You will love one and hate the other. Let's look at Luke 16 and 13. No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. So when you look at these I can say the black Christian pastors, when you look at the black church, the only purpose of the black church, which the black Christian pastor was not allowed to be a pastor up until 1775, and the first ordained black Christian pastor, the first down low brother, was George Liele, L-I-E-L-E, or Lile, or however you want to pronounce it. It starts with lie. Okay? What I need you to understand is that the black Christian pastor was heavily censored. He could only teach one thing: slaves, obey your master. He could never teach your identity, your culture, and your nation, ever. Which is why Matthew 6 and 24 says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Now, when you look at the black church and you look at the doctrine of Christianity, we're about to read and find out the spirit of a black Christian pastor that is willing to first become a house slave. Okay, we don't even want to get into all that's included, but butt breaking has a lot to do with it. Castration has a lot to do with it. Okay. but more importantly, agreement to the wickedness, agreement to the oppression and the destruction. Okay, I'll read verse 11 again. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Whereupon they built places of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves unto the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Verse 15, 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 15 is one of the most important verses for you to understand, not just read, but for you to understand in order to unlock the New Testament. In order to unlock and put together the New Testament with the Old Testament. Okay, what you need to understand is that it's really no New Testament and Old Testament. It's the scriptures. Okay, all scriptures are given by the inspiration of God. Okay, so what you have to understand is that when you see terms like and made themselves uncircumcised, you have to understand what that entails. How does a grown man make himself uncircumcised? You forsake the holy covenant. Well, guess what? In order to be a black Christian pastor, you have to make yourself uncircumcised. For all those that don't know, circumcision is a portion of the law that was given to the Israelites. Okay? The law was not given to any other nation on the face of the planet. Okay? So understand, when you reject the law, you make yourself uncircumcised. When you reject the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, you forsake the holy covenant, the covenant of promise. Let's see, so you can understand. All right. This is Second Thessalonians. Actually, I want to go to Ephesians chapter 2. Okay. Go to Ephesians chapter 2. Okay. Now we are in the New Testament. We are in Ephesus. Ephesus was a Roman province. Okay. Paul was sent to the circumcision, meaning he was sent to the uncircumcision, meaning that he was sent to northern kingdom and southern kingdom Israelites who had made themselves uncircumcised, forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves unto the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. This is where your term sellouts comes from. I need you to understand what's going on. This is where the term sellouts come from. Okay? This is Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 11. Wherefore remember, now this is Paul in Ephesus teaching the Israelites who heard about Christ healing the blind and healing the sick, making a man walk, walking on water, being received by a cloud, sitting on the right hand of the Father, all of his exploits. Paul was met on the road to Damascus. His job was to go into these Roman provinces, Ephesus, Greece, okay? He was to go into these Roman controlled provinces and teach Christ to the uncircumcised Israelites only. I want to say that again. Paul and Peter were only sent to the Israelites. The entire Bible is about the redemption, reconciliation, renewal, reuniting of the 12 tribes of Israel, of the promised seed line, sanctified by the Lamb slain before the foundation of the earth. I need you to understand what I just said. It's no way to get around that. You can't include any other nation in that. I'll say it again. The entire Bible is about the redemption, the reconciliation, the regrafting. Say that again. Regrafting, reconciliation, redemption of the promised seed line sanctified by the Lamb slain before the foundation of the earth. Ephesians 2 and verse 11. Wherefore remember that being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, meaning you made yourselves uncircumcised, forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Pay attention. Wherefore remember ye, being in time past Gentiles in the flesh. Now, understand something. He's telling you that you were Gentiles in the flesh in times past. So that means that you're no longer Gentiles in the flesh. Now he's going to explain what Gentiles in the flesh means for an Israelite who were called uncircumcision. You were called Gentiles. You were called strangers from the commonwealth of Israel. You were called heathens, barbarians, idol worshipers, sodomites. You understand that? Who were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision. Wait a minute, I'm going to get to you in a minute. The circumcision. Those that are of the southern kingdom of Israel. Those that are of either Benjamin, Judah, or Levi. The house of Judah, the tribe of Judah. Quote unquote Jews. Why? Why do they call them Jews? because the tribe of Judah was the kingship tribe of the southern kingdom in Jerusalem. Again, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi were of the circumcision. Now, the Most High saw when you worship idols in the secret place in the temple. The Most High saw that you were even more inordinate in your whoredom than your sister Aholibah was, according to Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter. Okay? And we'll get into that in another lesson, which is called the circumcision. And look at how he lets you know that you're just circumcised in the flesh. We see you doing evil and wickedness yourself, okay, in the secret places, and you think that the Lord don't see you, okay? Called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, not the circumcision in the heart. And understand, the scripture says plainly that your circumcision is counted as uncircumcision when you break the commandments, when you transgress the laws of the Most High God, when you worship another master, when you worship another Jesus, when you reject the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, it renders you with no understanding. It removes everything that you have. This is why you're still running around in 2026 telling people that you're a Christian. It's because you don't study. That's the only reason that you say that. It's because you don't study. And you have been implanted with a kill switch to reject the spirit of the law. Understanding that the law is the only power the Most High ever gave to the children of Israel. The only power that you have is the commandments. All right, listen up. 12th verse. That at that time ye were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. But now Christ, 13th verse. But Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were afar off, are made nigh by the blood of Christ, for he is our peace. Do you understand what a possessive pronoun is? For he is what? Our peace, whom have made both one, and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us. Like, I just want to, let me just slow down for a second. Because I mean, I don't want to run past these things. Because since Christianity is smeared everywhere, since John 3:16 is seen on billboards and bathroom walls and at the football game in the stadium, the most out of context verse in the entire Bible. But guess what? It's the verse that everyone knows, but very few, maybe 1% of the population even knows what it means. Because surely the God of the Bible does not love the world. Or does he? Okay. All right. 14th verse. Again, for he is our peace, who have made both northern kingdom, southern kingdom, circumcision, uncircumcision. That is the both that we're dealing with. The uncircumcision can be northern kingdom or southern kingdom. Remember that I said that the entire Bible is about the reconciliation, the redemption, the redeeming of the promised seed line, sanctified by the Lamb slain before the foundation of the earth. I need you to understand that. I need you to get that, so that you can understand the separation between the circumcision and the uncircumcision. That has nothing to do with the northern and the southern kingdom. You have to understand that that has to do with breaking the covenant, forsaking the covenant. When you go against the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, you are cut off from the congregation of Israel. Do you understand that? Do you understand the spiritual aspect of that? '15th verse. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twine, wait a minute, twine is two. Okay? Twine is two. One new man. Okay? So making peace. So y'all probably can't see it, but pop number 2.
That was talking.
All right. Now understand that these verses are right here in the scriptures. And get what? You've probably read them so many times, but it just doesn't do you much good to read the Bible through the vision and the sight and the eyes of a completely different nation. Remember, the black church did not only tell you that Jesus was white and that the Most High was white and that the prophets, all the apostles, all the disciples, and all the children of Israel were all white and Jewish. They told you that you were Africans. African Gentiles saved by the grace of white Jesus. So anytime you hear the spirit of the truth, or anytime you go to considering that you might be the Israelites, which many of you rejected, because you think that it's of you for you to receive the information. But I'm going to show you that it's of the Lord. It's the Most High that gives you the understanding that you're the Israelites. It's the Most High that gives you the ability to understand the book of the law, to understand your culture, to understand these parables that are written in these scriptures. It's of the Lord. It's not of studying. It's not of scholarship and seminary school and theology school and the Christian church. First of all, it's 33,000 different denominations of Christianity. Okay, if you ask one black pastor who is the example of Christianity, or who is the black pastor that teaches the Bible, They will only say themselves. Every black pastor says another black pastor is not a real pastor. He's a fraud unless they are all of the same organization. What is it? Word of Faith, Church of God and Christ. I mean, I'm talking about you got denominations on top of denominations on top of denominations, and don't none of the denominations know the Bible. None of them. Biblical literacy on zero out of all of them. And this flat out. Okay? This right, you can go right now on YouTube and pull up 10 black pastors and not one knows the Bible. Okay? You look at these public figures. Please name one public figure that lives the Christian standard. Okay? Because you have black Christian pastors that support making America great again. Do you understand? Okay. All right. So now that we understand the context of it, I want to go back and I want to let me pull up something very important here. Okay. We're going to continue on to read in First Maccabees. It's First Maccabees chapter 1, okay? We're clearing up. We want to make sure that we put in context and clarify what's happening here, okay? This is the first captivity of the southern kingdom Israelites of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi by the Edomite convert Greeks. I hope you put two and two together to understand what's going on. And here we have Antiochus Epiphanes 147 years after Alexander became the first ruler over Greece, the first Edomite convert ruler over Greece. He's not an ancient Greek. He took over the nationality of the Greeks. Okay? In those days went there out of Israel, meaning the southern kingdom, meaning where Jerusalem is, of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. Okay? Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. That's the same thing that these so-called rappers and actors and black celebrities and black professional, professional football players and baseball players and all of that. They want you to make a covenant with the heathen. What you think a contract is? Okay. And why do you think that it is a requirement for you to be, well, we'll just leave that alone. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get it dropped down. We come with the the too hot for social media content is on our Patreon channel at Spirit of His Mouth, on our Patreon channel, as well as on our Substack at Spirit of His Mouth. For that rated T too hot for social media content. Let's move on. We have hours and hours of teaching, letting you know who the fourth and the final beast is, who the last ruling empire is unequivocally. Okay. 13th verse. Then certain other people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. And so I saw a post the other day where, it had a whole bunch of comments. It was talking about how Clarence Thomas was one of the voters that was against the black voters' rights or gerrymandering or changing these districts so that black representation would be reduced in Congress and in the Senate. And what I want you to understand is that you have never had black representation. Just so that you understand that, you have voted for the same thing for 60 years. That's what lets you know that you've never had black representation. Okay. Now, you may have these type of Israelites representing you, right? In those days went there out of Israel wicked men. And see, this is what the Lord calls those that support the wicked. But they make you feel like they doing something for you because they're brown. What does that mean? Okay. The scripture says it said in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Now, when you hear these black celebrities talk, right? How many of them do you think have knowledge of the scriptures? I mean, can you name any that understands the Bible? Okay. Now, you might say, oh, well, Kendrick, Kendrick Lamar said we was the Israelites. Okay. What you have to understand is that there comes a time when the truth must come out. Okay. And the truth must be told. So no matter how strong deception is, it already knows that the truth is undefeated. And America knows much better than you do that time is ticking. And that just like every other great nation, it's time to fall. Okay? They know this is prophesied. Okay? Just like they knew to take on the identity of the Greeks, they knew to take on the identity of the Israelites. You do understand that, right? Maybe that makes, maybe you can put two and two together to understand why the Egyptians are all of a sudden so in agreement with America and so light in complexion. You never noticed that? You never noticed how these Arab leaders who descend from Ishmael, I might add, are in agreement with the Western nations, even against their own people. You do understand that UAE is against Iran right now. Saudi Arabia is against Iran right now. You do understand that they said they stood idly by as U.S. Munitions were deployed on the Gaza Strip. This is their people, man. They said nothing. You do understand that, right? Why? Because of the beast, man. You got to understand that there will be one ruling kingdom at the end. All right, let's keep going. 17th verse. Wherefore he entered into, okay, this time Antiochus, I'll start at 15 again. And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion over two realms, meaning over Egypt and over Jerusalem. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and he went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. So now this is like 200 years before the great siege of Jerusalem. And let me show you the significance of that. This is called the freeze of Titus, with your lip poked out. And I understand that you hear things, but guess what? It's the Spirit of the Lord that allows you to be able to endure, because you may realize that the water, and all you can do is tread water, because you don't want to become angry in deep, deep water, because you know your emotions. This is documented history. We call it Googleable. All right. So you can go and you can find these things for yourself. I just read you the account long before the great siege of Jerusalem. Now, allow me to show you images, ancient images that are still in the earth today. This is known as the freeze of Titus. Titus and Vespasian were father and son Roman-led generals that led the siege of Jerusalem starting in 65 AD, where they surrounded Jerusalem and cut off all food and cut off all sustenance from coming into Jerusalem, surrounding Benjamin, Judah, and Levi, the Israelites of the southern kingdom, the Jews, the kingship tribe was the tribe of Judah. Okay. This would also be when the natural branches were cut off. Okay. Please understand that the olive tree is a wild olive tree. It's just the delusion of Christianity causes you to think all type of weirdo things when you're reading the Bible, man. I actually had a grown person say to me, well, it's two trees in Romans 11. It's a wild olive tree and an olive tree. Wait a minute. Did you just hear what you just said? The scripture says that the olive tree is wild by nature. What does wild mean? Growing wild just means it's unkempt, it's unpruned, it's not watered. It's not taken care of. In other words, it's the black Christian pastor. It's the hireling that runs when the wolf comes. He's not there to protect the sheep. He's coming up some other way. He didn't come to through the truth of the law. He didn't come through the prophets. He didn't come through the Christ. He came up some other way. You understand that? He was deployed by his slave master. Do you get that? Do you understand that the black Christian pastor would have been hanging from a tree, and many of them were, who reveal any type of truth or information to the congregation? If you got found out, guess what happened? Okay. So there was a requirement. Ask Nat Turner, who turned him in. It was the black pastor who turned him in. Ask Denmark Vesey, who turned him in. It was the black Christian pastor. It was Stephen from Django. It was your Clarence Thomas and your Obamas and your Roland Martins and your Eddie Murphys and your Puffy Combs and your R. Kellys. Do you understand that? Those that are willing to bow and kiss boots. You got to understand, there is no higher paying position in the history of America for a black man than kissing the white man's behind. I hope you can understand that. What you have on your screen is the frieze of Titus. If you look at this image here, I don't know if you can you see my arrow on the screen, fam? Can somebody come off mute and tell me if they can see my arrow on the screen?
Move it around, nephew.
Go ahead, Ed. Move it.
Okay. You must can't see it. So I'll select it. All right. So wants erected right now. Okay. He wants an ark to him. You see, but what you have to understand is that these people can't clap on beat. All right. So they do nothing original. All right. So everything they do is from somebody else. You feel what I'm saying? Okay. So understand when you look at the frieze of Titus, it's this big ark. I want to let me get a zoomed out version. Okay. So you can understand. All right. See. The Ark of Titus, honorific ark located via Sacri, Rome, just to the southeast of the Roman Forum. It was constructed in 81 AD by Emperor Domitian, shortly after the death of his older brother Titus, to commemorate Titus' official deification. Okay, they made him a deity. Okay. Or, I don't know what that says. And the victory of Titus together with their father Vespasian over the Jewish, it was not, okay, listen. All right, so let's clear that up too, okay? And this is another thing. When you are, hopefully you're reasoning with ChatGPT, going back and forth, and it'll actually refine you, but there are things that you must understand. Let me clarify. The word Jewish can only be found once in the entire Bible. Okay. The God of the Bible never named his people Jewish. Okay. This is Titus chapter 1 and verse 14. Okay, I want to read this for you. Okay, so that you can understand. This is the only place Jewish is found in the KJV 1611 Bible and the Apocrypha, okay? Not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. That is a warning, okay? Jewish is associated with fables according to the Lord, okay? Okay? So that you can understand that. So in other words, this is saying the southern kingdom of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. All right? All right. And so you may know that in Matthew, the 24th chapter, is Christ warning to the southern kingdom Israelites when they saw Jerusalem compassed with armies, flee into the mountains. This is how 1 million southern kingdom Israelites that fled from the great siege that started in 65 AD. They fled into the mountains of West Africa. You understand? That's where you get this map from the 1700s. And I'm just showing you that everybody knows but the Christians, okay? So, I mean, it's no reason for you to really have your lip out. Your concentration needs to be, Lord, can you allow me to endure? I might hear some truth. Because he is the only one that can reveal this information to you. I am only pointing, but I cannot cause you to receive it. And I'll prove that to you in just a second. Okay. All right. So this is a famous map, a 1729 map titled Negro Land and Guinea. I guess that's, yeah. When the European settlements explaining what belongs to England, Holland, Denmark, so on and so forth. Okay. So understand that if all black people from Africa, are Negroes, what is Negro land sectioned off in a map for? You understand? Hold on one second. Okay. All right. Okay. What is the purpose of sectioning off this portion for England and for Holland and Denmark and commissioning the map makers to section that land off and call it Negro land? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's look at this. This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, okay? All right. This is not my publication. This is not an Israelite publication. Okay? This is a Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 publication. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So if Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary knows that you're not African, why doesn't Jesse Jackson know? Why he didn't know in 1988? Or do you think that he did know, but he was one of those wicked men that said, let's go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us? For since we have left them, we have had much sorrow. And there were many of them that were so forward herein that they went unto the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So maybe it's no marvel when you realize that Trump was one of the biggest funders of Jesse Jackson's presidential run, and how Trump barely said a word when Jesse Jackson passed away. I just want to know this. I mean, did anyone just see anything going on about Jesse Jackson? You spent your entire life serving your master. You spent your entire life persuading black people to make a covenant with the heathen. Don't you understand that when you elect the officials, that means you still have hope in America? No one has broken more treaties, more promises, told more lies, spilled more blood than the United States of America. Do you understand that? I mean, do you get? They don't care about you, period. And please understand that this quote unquote Christian nation, what's Christian about America? And these same Christians are in full support with the scarlet colored beast. Do you not understand that? Okay. So let's go on. All right. So back to the frieze of Titus. Okay. You see that it's a big ark. And that's what Trump wants to have erected. Okay. I don't know where he wants to put it. I haven't looked all the way in it, but I saw this, that he wants an ark. And now I'm showing you why he wants that ark. Because of what we read earlier in the scriptures. Notice that in the ark of Titus, notice what's inscribed and engraved in the side of it. Okay, understand that this made him a deity. This made Titus, okay, the son of Vespasian, made him a deity when they conquered Jerusalem. All right. Now, this is after the Greek Empire, the Greco-Roman Empire, and just the empire. This is 70 AD. Okay? This is many, many years after Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. And please understand that in 322 BC was the Hellenic War and the Lemnian War. Okay, so you can understand why you're running around putting an X on your chest. and talking about Wakanda, this fictitious African nation that has indestructible vibranium. Okay. When you understand Black Panther and you understand the X-Men and you understand comic books and that they're based on the Israelites. Okay. When you understand that the X-Men were based on the civil rights leaders. Okay. Mostly unlearned. One worshiping a rock, the other worshiping wood and stone. You will worship other gods, even wood and stone. You will worship the God of the heathens. Allah is a God of the heathen. It is arm, leg, arm, head. Do you understand that? There are many gods. Okay. And why don't you know these things? Because your religions of the earth is nothing more than intelligence for your destruction, man. Okay. All right. So now you look at this engraving and you'll see the 7-branch menorah. You'll see the table for the showbread. You'll see the vessels, the censers, right? And where do we get that from? Let's go back to 1 Maccabees. Let's read it again. And 21, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlesticks of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. Understand that the temple at Solomon is where you get this image from. This is the Roman army doing exactly what the Antiochus army did when they came into the sanctuary and they sacrificed swine's flesh on the altar in the sanctuary. And they took down the veil. When they say they took down the veil was to separate the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple and from the rest of man. And where is the Holy of Holies? That's where the Spirit of the Lord dwelt. That's where the Ark of the Covenant dwelt on earth, within the Holy of Holies. And only the high priests of the southern kingdom of the sons of Aaron, the Levitical priesthood, could go into and can go in inside the veil into the Holy of Holies. Only he could do that once a year to make atonement for the people. And if he went in and he followed one instruction incorrectly, they put a pomegranate and a bell on the bottom of the garment of the priest, especially the high priest. Okay. And when he went in, they would tie a rope around his ankle and send him into the Holy of Holies. And if he fell, if he lit an incense wrong or moved the showbread or did anything out of order, okay, the Most High is a God of order. The Most High put him to death right on the spot, and they drug him out with the rope around his ankle. All right? That's to let you know how serious the Most High is. One time, the King David took the Levites to go and get the ark. And just to make a long story short, they went and they found the ark. They put the ark on the back of 2 yoked oxen. And now this is the Levites the whole time, you know, they are making sure that everything is done correctly. So they show up, they grab the ark, they put the ark, I'm paraphrasing, and they put the ark on the back of the 2 yoke oxen, and one of the oxen stepped down into a hole and kind of, stepped in and kind of shook the ark. And when one of the Levitical priests saw this, they went to go and try to steady the ark or try to catch the ark. It looked like it was about to fall. And the Most High put him to death. Right there. And as a result, David said, "Nah, we'll just lead we'll just lead the ark here." Okay. See, it took the Christians to play with the Most High. It took wicked men to play with the Most High. You know, the Israelites that slew, let me just use the word, unalive the prophets, you know them? Okay, it took that type of spirit. You know, because you had many Israelites that's what they did. They plotted on the prophets because they got angry. And they went and they unalived the prophets. That's the spirit of you black Christian pastors right today. Okay? And that's what you do best, is that you persuade many to make a covenant with the heathen. Many of you don't even want salvation yourself. If your eternal enemy can't have salvation. That's why the question remains. What are you going to save the heathen from? They ruling over you. They in their heaven. They in their kingdom. What is the Most High going to save them from? They don't suffer the destruction that you suffer. They don't suffer the evil that you suffer. They didn't have to go through Jim Crow. They didn't have to suffer 100 years of castration and lynchings. They didn't have to go through that. They didn't abort 50 million of their babies. You don't get it. But get what? You in love with the church. You in love with white Jewish Jesus. Get what? The white man didn't tell you Jesus was white. The white man didn't tell you Jesus was Jewish. The black church told you that. These celebrities told you that. Do you even know what drill music is? Do you think that drill music could exist if they talked about, doing a drive-by on a Cocker Spaniel? Do you think that drill music would be allowed to be made? And that your slave masters would be able to make millions of dollars off of it? Do you think that? All right. So put your lip in. Learn how to endure. But let me show you why. Let me show you why it's not up to me. I don't claim to be the one that's going to open your eyes. My only job is to blow the trumpet, man. Really, to be honest, I don't want you to wake up. That's really, to be honest, because I'm fed up with you. Once you turn your back, see, I'm not the Lord. You understand? I don't have the long suffering that the Lord has. I don't have the patience and the mercy that the Lord has. Anybody conspiring with my enemies to destroy me? I don't want the best for you. I want you to be judged severely, right? Those that reject God's laws, those that reject his nationality, those that want to just cleave to the heathen, just be wicked, covered in sin, bringing their babies and their children into the same destruction and the same sin. I want you to be judged, man. That's really. But I come out here because get what? The elect is still the elect. And you were sanctified before the foundation of the earth. But those that will perish, you're not written in the Lamb's book of life anyway. So really, I could care less what happens to you. That's what I'm saying. I'm not even on here for everybody, man. I don't even like many of you. You understand? I'm just here to blow this trumpet, man. I don't know who gonna hear and who not gonna hear. I'm here for the edification of the elect, not for vainglory. Okay? So you folk that's making excuses for eating pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, keep doing what you're doing. Okay? Keep on keeping on, man. You like it, I love it. All right, so now, this is Matthew chapter 16, and this is a conversation that Christ was having with the disciples. Okay? And I want you to understand something. No man can choose God. And he already told you. No servant can serve two masters. Okay? Just so that you understand. He'll love one and hate the other one. Okay? The 12th verse. Matthew 16 and verse 12. Then understood they that he obeyed them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. So let me go up a little bit. I go to the 5th verse. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Please understand that leaven is in other words, leaven is the sermons that you've been hearing for 30 years in the Christian church. Leaven is the God love everybody. Okay, leaven is the tradition of the black church. Period. It's all leaven. Okay, it's all the tithe is money. Okay, the law is done away with, but you collected $800 billion in 10 years from 2009 to 2019. $800 billion in tithes and offering. That's leaven. Because you're teaching the Israelites that their tithing or their increase of their money is going to God. When you're just taking that 800 billion and returning it right to them people that you went to their seminary schools, and that you preach and you teach the image of the beast for. That's what leaven is. It's the doctrine of the image of the beast, man. It's the tradition. It's the ordinances. It's the jumping up and down and I should about a Honda and under the sea. Talking about you speaking in tongues. It's that foolishness. It's your gospel music. That's what living is. It's your God love everybody. The Most High came to join his son to the heathens, and he flooded the whole earth. 7th verse. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. Which when Jesus perceived that, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves? Because you have brought no bread. Do ye not yet understand, neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000, and how many baskets ye took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets ye took up. In other words, don't you understand that this is about your faith? This is not about bread. This is not about sermons. This is not about doctrine. This is not about denominations. This is about the bread from heaven, which is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the truth. That's why Christ said, I will send you another comforter, and he will what? Teach you all things, and bring whatsoever I have said unto you back to your remembrance. It says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Do you understand that? That's what the bread of life is. That is what the bread from heaven is. And you can't just choose that. The Most High has to choose it for you. He has to choose you by giving you the understanding. So understand, nobody with their lip poked out at this truth, you're not getting the kingdom. So just get ready. Stay joined and cleaving to the heathen. 13th verse. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, where Cornelius was from, Cornelius, the Israelite of the tribe of Ephraim, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that the Son of Man am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Do you understand that? It's crystal clear. So when you Old Testament only dummies run up talking about, oh, well, Christ is not in the prophets. He's not in. Okay, all right, I agree with you. Okay, all right, good. He's not in there for you. Okay? Because the Most High has not given that to you. Let me show you. Let me show you somewhere else. Maybe you think I'm making it up. This is Matthew chapter 13. Start at verse 9. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Meaning, not just ears on the side of your head. Who has understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what they're hearing. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables? What are parables? Parables are family business. Parables are stories. They are allegories, similitudes. They're showing you that they are symbolism. And the only way you can identify this information is if you receive the testimony of the prophets. And what did the prophets give you? They gave you the spirit of the truth. They gave you the law. And so understand, no salvation for those who reject the spirit of the truth. No Christians will be in the kingdom. Do you understand that? 0 Christians will be in the kingdom. There are only 12 gates to the kingdom of heaven. Not one gate says Christians. Let's read on. He answered and said unto them, this is the disciple talking to Christ. He's saying to him, why do you speak to them in parables? You're teaching the multitude. You're teaching them, you got Benjamin, Judah, and Levi all gathered. You at the synagogues where the Jews resort, where Benjamin, Judah, and Levi resort. He said, in secret, I have said nothing. You understand? So he's teaching the multitude. He's teaching out in the open for all of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. And they're still asking him, well, why are you speaking in parables? Why are you speaking in similitude? Why are you speaking in family business? I make the analogy of me and my friend coming home from college. My college roommate coming home from college, and we eating dinner with the family, and everybody around the table, and everybody laughing, and uncles telling stories and aunts telling stories, and they done told 4, 5, 6 times, well, over the years, just 100 times. And everybody at the table, falling out laughing, and my friend saying, well, what's funny? Well, it's family business. You wouldn't understand. You had to be there, is how they put it. You had to be there, okay? So that you can understand what the prophet said, and you had to accept what the prophet said, the testimony of the prophets, and not be the Israelites that's trying to kill them or take them out. Understand that now. 11 verse. He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, meaning whosoever hath knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, whosoever hath the light and the testimony of the prophets, whosoever have received the spirit of the truth, unto him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he have. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. You see, that's why this truth is coming out like it's coming out. And that's why your lip poked out and you mad and you got a problem, and many of you done just scrolled on. Why? Because it's the Lord that gives the understanding. It's the Lord that gives the increase. Light can't take away light, fam. So if you got the truth, what you so afraid of? What you running for? What your lip poked out for? Why you so emotional? If you got the truth, then come with it. Let's reason. Let's talk about it. If you got the truth, you should be able to handle these lessons. You should be able to go anywhere in the scriptures and feel comfortable. That's the purpose of the comforter. To make you aware of why you're going through what you're going through. All right, so I'm gonna leave it right there for online, and